Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ blessed, but Sabbath to you. My name is Brother Zerubbabel,
My name is Ezra Elazar.
and we are children of Israel. We are back once again on the Sabbath to continue bringing out these lessons. We're going to finish up this series of lessons that we've been going through dealing with the Ten Commandments. I'm going to reiterate, we've gone over them uh, in the past. Full breakdowns. What we've been doing with these ones, we're not doing the full in-depth breakdowns that we did in the previous videos. So if you want full breakdown of each of these commandments, go and watch those videos. Those videos there are 4 or 5 hours long, precept after precept after precept after precept, breaking down what each of these commandments is actually talking about and means. Today, we're dealing with thou shalt not covet, which is commandment 10. We're not even going to barely touch up on a quarter of the information that we did in the other video. All right. The other video, like 21 pages of precepts. Video, I believe, like 6 hours long, somewhere around there. It's a very, very long video, but very informative. Again, precept after precept after precept, breaking down each component of what Commandment 10 is talking about um, as far as being covetous. Um, Today, we're not going that in depth with it, but we're going to give you the basic understanding of Commandment 10 and how we can apply that to our lives today. And also part of that is how we've ended up in the situation that we're in now, that we live in a society where being covetous is acceptable. That's just what American values is pretty much based on. Um, Basically, peer pressure, being a part of a group, you know what I mean? Doing what the rest of the group does, having what the rest of the group has, um, wanting to strive to be like the rest of the group and have what the rest of the group has. That's what America pushes. And it starts from the time where kids in school, this covetous spirit that the Bible speaks of. Um, Unfortunately, it's hard to get away from because you're going to see it on your job, you're going to see it in school, you're going to see it in your neighborhood, um, where people are constantly letting this spirit of covetousness, which is another word for, having that spirit of envy, that spirit of jealousy, that spirit of desire. All of these different words all, fall under being covetous. Um, we're going to talk about some of these things, but all of this is pushed again at a young age in school. From the time you start kindergarten, you're expected to fall in line with the other kids. Christmas comes around. Christmas is built upon covetousness, um, asking Santa Claus for the things that you desire as a child, which usually has to do with, like toys, electronics, um, those things that make you feel good as a child. And it's gotten so bad now to the point to where you're hearing and seeing all these stories popping up where kids are cursing out their parents, yelling and screaming, throwing a fit because they didn't get what they wanted for Christmas. Um, Again, this is what America pushes. America pushes that covetousness. And it's all throughout media. Um, You know what I mean? When Halloween comes around, you don't want, in school, you don't want to be that kid that doesn't show up to the Halloween costume party without a costume, whether it's because your parents couldn't afford to buy you a costume, or religiously you just don't celebrate Halloween, whatever the case is. You did not want to be that kid, not showing up on Halloween or showing up on Halloween without having a costume on. Or having, a cheap costume, or a hand-me-down costume, or the one that you wore last year and the year before and the year before. You know what I mean? Because what happens? Kids are cruel. Kids will make fun of the other kids. Oh, you didn't get a costume. How come you don't have a costume? Well, your parents couldn't afford to buy you one. You know what I mean? Though those kind of things happens in these elementary schools and make the kids feel bad. It's going as far as now teachers are, trying to get involved and persuade parents that, that's not right. They should be able to do what the other kids do. Why are you going to make them feel left out? You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to the Israelites. You don't want your kids participating in this stuff, but you've got some of these teachers that are, and we've talked about this before, right? You've said you guys have dealt with that in a way, with your kids, teachers, where they know you're not allowing them to participate in Christmas and Halloween and all this stuff, and the teachers are like, "Hey, you know, why don't you let them participate?" It's none of these teachers' business. They shouldn't be getting involved in it at all. Basically, if the parents say, we don't want this for our kids, the teachers should only be saying, oh, okay, all right, we respect that. That's how it used to be back in the day. The teachers had no choice but to just respect it. Okay, my kid has an allergy problem. Make sure they don't eat this. And now you have teachers saying, oh, I know your parents don't let you eat this, but don't tell them. Just go ahead and enjoy it. You know what I mean? And having these kids, doing stuff behind their parents' back is crazy. Um, but again, when it comes to dealing with Commandment 10, um, America, that's what it's built on. So, we've got to keep that in mind, that everything about this society is about having what everybody else has. You know what I mean? And building up that covetous spirit within you as a child. Again, Halloween, Christmas comes around. You don't want to be that kid coming to school, not, getting anything good for Christmas. The kids, oh, what'd you get? I got an iPad. Oh, what'd you get? I got a new iPhone. What'd you get? Oh man, I got a brand new Xbox. What'd you get? Oh, I got PlayStation 5. What'd you get? Some socks and underwear and, a pair of shoes from Walmart. And you don't want, that's how America, you don't want to be that kid, because all the kids are going to start laughing, making fun. You got underwear for Christmas and t-shirts and a pair of shoes from Walmart? Are your parents poor or something? You know how these kids are. That's the humiliation that these kids go through. And that's what America's built on. That when you feel that, you feel obligated that you have to participate. And that's goes all the way from the time they're kids all the way up until adulthood, that we're going to go through it. You see, just look around your own neighborhood. You know what I mean? And you will see it. You will see that covetous spirit where um, people are seeing a neighbor get something and they get jealous, and then they got to go out and get something. And, there's this back and forth. You see it, and I see it in my neighborhood. You see it in almost all neighborhoods across this country, that everything's about being covetous. And for our people, the Lord didn't want us engaging in this kind of behavior. That's why we're not supposed to be celebrating Christmas and Halloween and uh, well, we're in February now, so Valentine's Day is going to be coming up. Another what? Another one of Esau's holidays that's about covetousness. Uh, you know what I mean? Some people are going to be on their jobs, um, flirting with each other, flirting with, they may know that a man is married, a woman is married, but because they're letting these, what do you call it, job place um, attractions get the best of them to where they're trying to figure out how they can move in on somebody else's wife or somebody else's husband. You know what I mean? Carrying on giving, flowers and candies and gifts and stuff like that secretly. Like, I know they got a husband or boyfriend or whatever at home, but who they're interested in me, so I don't care. That's the attitude of some of the people. Um, so you're gonna see that stuff going on. They say that Valentine's Day is the one day out of the year you have the greatest chance of your spouse or significant other, whatever you may want to call it, to cheat on you. It's crazy what America is built on. Here, hold on. Let me see. Let me find something. Uh, all right. Let me watch this. Let me share. So all I did was just type in Valentine's Day, the greatest day to be cheated on, and you got articles after articles and all of this. But here we go. It says Valentine's Day, the greatest day to be cheated on. Valentine's Day is often considered the greatest day to be cheated on due to the heightened romantic activity and the sense of urgency that cheating partners may feel to see their affair partner. This day can lead to risky behaviors and slip ups that leave a trail of evidence, making it an ideal time for surveillance and gathering concrete proof of infidelity. Cheating partners may go out of their way to hide their tracks or overcompensate with their partner to alleviate guilt or throw off suspicion. And the person that's putting this out, um, this is what do you call it? A private investigator that wrote this article. All right. Where was I at? It says Valentine's Day is a time when suspicious spouses seek private investigators to catch their partners with chocolates and champagne. Martin Investigative Services can help you investigate and catch a cheating partner with surveillance, which is easier than ever thanks to tech and skilled investigators. Martin Investigative Service can be contacted. You got the number, so on. All right. Um, so just giving a little rundown. So he's even got exposing a cheater on Valentine's Day, the traditional approach to catching a cheater. Traditionally, most people try to catch a cheating spouse by confronting them after observing some telltale signs indicating their adulterous ways. They could do this by observing their behavior, phone conversations, or speaking to family and friends. While these methods work, they are not as effective. For instance, the cheating husband could buy an extra phone for private conversations, create multiple online accounts, or be highly secretive about their actions. Confronting such partners is unlikely to yield any results, and there is the chance that they could lie about their affair, leaving you confused and lost. The modern methods for exposing and cheating modern problems require modern solutions, and confronting your partner without proof won't cut it. Thus, you'll have to up your game and look for ways to investigate, find evidence, and catch your partner without their knowledge. You can use technology and try to surveil them. However, the chances are that it won't work since you aren't skilled in that field. The best solution would be to hire a private investigator skilled in surveilling, investigative, collecting, and documenting evidence. A good private investigator understands the law and what they are supposed to do in gathering evidence that can be admissible to court. So you may say, well, what does it got to do with Commandment 10? This sounds more like thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, you got to remember, breaking one commandment, sometimes you could be in the midst of breaking several commandments all at once. Okay, so covetousness overlaps with adultery, unfortunately, because as you're going to see as we go through, um, desiring your neighbor's wife or their husband is what? That's being covetous. And at the same time, you're committing adultery. All right. Um, Here's another one. This is from MSN. As Valentine's Day approaches, cheating spikes. All right. Let me see. Is it loading up? All right. So, in the days leading up to February 14th, Valentine's Day, statistics suggest a rise in infidelities. Although this date is popularly known as the most romantic day of the year, it seems to also awaken a curious side in some relationships. So, I'm not going to read all of it, but you can see it says there's increased traffic on extramarital dating sites. Google Trends shows a spike in searches like having an affair. You know what I mean? So, again, this all starts as a kid, as a child in school. They push Valentine's Day. Um, they push all these holidays, and all of this comes back to covetousness. All right. So, we're going to get into it. And how do we teach our people to avoid breaking God's commandments? Is we got to teach you God's commandments. Okay. So let me go back to the other window. All right. So we're going to open up. Let's go to Hebrews 5 and 12 through 14 as usual. Oh, it didn't pop up. Hold on.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 5 and verse 12. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those whom by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil.
All right. And again, that's the problem here in America. And actually, American values are being pushed throughout the world now. That, there's a gray area of what constitute what's good and what constitute what's evil. um, America doesn't have taught us the things that are evil are good and the things that are good are evil is basically what it comes down to. um, like I said earlier, America's holidays: Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Easter. All of these holidays push some form of covetousness, like even Easter. Um, you know what I mean? Everybody, you got to follow the crowd. Okay, it's Easter. Everybody's going to get dressed on their Sunday best to go to Easter Sunday, go to church on Easter Sunday. Don't go to church at all throughout the rest of the year, but all of a sudden Easter Sunday come around and everybody's got to suddenly decide they're going to be religified and go to church, getting dressed up in their Sunday best. You don't want to be that kid that doesn't get an Easter basket for Easter. You don't want to be that kid that don't get a new Sunday church outfit for Easter. You know what I mean? well, what else they do for Easter? Nowadays, some of these churches are having Easter egg hunts and all kinds of stuff like that nowadays. No different than their trunk or treats and having their Christmas carnivals and stuff like that. Again, comes back to covetousness. Having what the other kids have or doing what the other kids do. And unfortunately, that carries on to adulthood. All right. So, America, especially for the Israelites, you so called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, have corrupted our minds in teaching us to go against what the Bible teaches. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not covet." They ignore that and basically tell you there's nothing wrong with covetousness, nothing wrong with it at all. It's natural. You know what I mean? Follow the crowd, do what everybody else does, give into that peer pressure. All right. Let's go to First Peter 2:2.
The book of First Peter, chapter 2 and verse 2. As newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby.
All right. And not only just for the adults, but you adults need to start teaching this to your kids. All right. Take this information, not just us. There are many Israelite camps, groups, teachers that are online teaching. And you need to take these lessons and teach them to your kids because that's where it's going to start. You don't realize the fight that we're in for the hearts and minds of the children of the Israelites. They're being corrupted. I mean, just a little bit ago, before we started the class, my wife and I were watching a couple of videos that are recent, where again, it's our kids. You know what I mean? Judah, Northern Kingdom, man pulls up in his driveway, um, getting ready. All he did was went to go throw something in the garbage after he got out of his car. And as he has his back turned and throwing something in the garbage, this kid looked like he had to at least been 11, 12, 13 years old. Came running up with a pistol in his hand, extended magazine, pointing it at him. And then his friend came running up. Basically, what they wanted to try and take his car. So he's thinking that they may have followed because he had stopped at the gas station just before going to his house. So he says he thinks that they followed him from the gas station. But they were Judah, two little teenagers, and they actually look like preteens. When you look at the size of the kid compared to the man, you could tell that it was a kid. You know what I mean? You know how a preteen is standing next to, well, I know some of them are really tall nowadays, but I'm thinking back to my time when we still looked like little kids in seventh and eighth grade.
Right.
You could see it. He looked like a little kid standing next to this grown man holding that pistol in his hand. The dude is probably like 5'11", maybe close to 6 feet tall. And this kid looks like he hasn't even reached 5 foot tall yet. If he was five, he may have been 5 feet tall. And that's just, giving him the benefit of the doubt, running up with a pistol in his hand. And so that's what I was telling my wife, like, man, if you gotta, they're making the average person jump through hoops just to be able to buy a weapon, to buy a pew pew nowadays. Where are these kids getting these things from? You know what I mean? Because in some states, like even California, they've made the law now you can't have certain magazine sizes and all that kind of stuff even shipped here. You can't do it. You can't just go out and buy a 30 clip magazine. But how are these kids, how are they getting them? You know what I mean? What do they call those? The rounded ones? You know what I'm talking about? The what do they call those rounded clips that they're You're seeing in the videos that these kids have with it's like a rounded drum and it's
Oh
stuck
yeah,
up in the bottom of
the magazines.
and they call the magazine too, just a rounded magazine or something where um, these things got, like 50 rounds in them. And it's like, where are these kids getting these things from? Nobody's asking the question. And more importantly, where are these kids' parents at that these parents don't seem to realize that their kids are out here stealing cars and then going out and robbing and stealing from people and shooting and killing people? It's crazy what's going on. But again, this comes back to covetousness and the children of Israel having their minds corrupted, living in this demonic society here,
Oh,
not
man.
desiring the sincere milk of the word. Go ahead.
It's a drum magazine, and it can take
Exactly.
about 50 to 500 rounds.
500.
I mean,
Wow.
100 plus.
But even 100, that's crazy.
Mhm.
That's crazy. So you got to ask yourself, where are these kids getting these things from? No, nobody seems to be asking the obvious question. They're not old enough to go into a gun store and buy them. So how are they getting them? You know what I mean? So, but again, this comes down to covetousness. And the notion is that these kids, oh, they're living in poverty, they're hungry, they're if they're hungry, I can understand, okay, your parents are poor, you don't have money, you're hungry, go into the store and you buy, steal some food out the store so you can eat. It's breaking God's commandments. But like even the Bible says, you know what I mean? I'm paraphrasing, don't get mad at a man for stealing if he stole because he's hungry and he stole food. You know what I mean? So um, but that's not what's going on. Some of these kids come from middle class families. Some of them have a father that works, a mother that works. Both of them have very good, high paying jobs in a lot of these situations. Go and look when you see some of these situations where some of these kids are out here wilding out like this. A lot of these kids are coming from your average middle class neighborhoods and going out committing these crimes. And it goes for Esau's kids, Judah's kids, Northern Kingdom's kids, you know what I mean? Asian kids. You're seeing of all ethnicities. These kids are out here. It doesn't matter the ethnicity, doesn't matter the economic level. These kids are out here committing these crimes, these smash and grabs. All this comes down to what? Thou shalt not covet, which leads to thou shalt not steal. Again, you can see the correlation between all of these commandments. You break one, you're going to end up breaking another, adding sin to sin, because that's where it starts. That's where theft starts. They saw the guy in his car stop at the gas station. Hey, you know what? We want that car. Followed him home. So it started with them what? Coveting his car. They desired to have his car. And then proceeded to rob him, which came up to thou shalt not steal. And America's laws are not that different. What happens when you hear about some of these people getting arrested for certain crimes? They're getting arrested for these crimes, and then what do they start doing? They start adding and piling on charges, charge after charge after charge, because breaking of one law leads into the breaking of another, and they're going to throw that charge on there. And the breaking of that law leads to another charge, because in the commission of that breaking of that law, you've also broken this one. That's what America's doing. That's what Esau's doing now. So that's why you got to be real careful nowadays. You can get arrested now for just about anything. It's easy to get arrested now, and they're doing this on purpose. You know what I mean? You got to go back and figure out where it stems from. The moment these for-profit colleges, not colleges, for-profit prisons came into play, that's where, these politicians, they have a, what do you call it? I guess you could say, like, they feel like it's their duty to give in to what these donors want them to do. The pay to play system. These for profit colleges, they want the police out there enforcing any and every law, because it doesn't matter if you're a law abiding citizen or not nowadays. They want you locked up because somebody's going to get paid, and that's going to make their stocks go up. So they don't care. As long as they keep these prisons filling up, just having the criminals in there isn't enough. They can't make enough money just having just your average everyday criminal in there. They make more money for having anybody and everybody. Anybody and everybody is a target now. It doesn't matter. Somebody's trying to make money. And it all comes down to what? Covetousness. If they could get you to covet, keep your desires, going, that's going to cause you to, if you don't make enough money, people, you're seeing even your average everyday housewives getting arrested for committing embezzlement on their jobs. Because why? They covet that Gucci purse or that Louis Vuitton purse that they see some of these celebrities, walking around with. So again, that's what's being pushed in America, not for our people to desire the sincere milk of the word. It's to desire, what do you want to call it? Things, goods, things, purses, wallets, cars, houses, you know what I mean? Jewelry, whether it's rings, chains, bracelets, you know what I mean? They keep pushing this kind of stuff, materialistic stuff on society, to where people desire these things more than they desire the sincere milk of the word. And that's what's going down. All right. So we got to remember that if we want the kingdom, as far as being an Israelite, what do we have to do? We've got to keep the commandments, as says who? Christ himself. If you want to get the kingdom of heaven, you've got to keep the commandments, which again, there's the contradiction. All of these people claim to be Christians. They walk around with crosses on their neck. They celebrate Christmas, believing or choosing to believe that they're celebrating Christ. They claim to be Christ-like. They claim to be Christians, but don't seem to realize that they're breaking God's commandments and going away from what Christ even said. They say they want the kingdom of heaven. Everybody say they want to go to heaven. Everybody wants to believe that they get salvation along with the Israelites. It's not just Israel, it's for everybody. Christ came and died for everyone. He died for all. Won't do nothing he said, but they want the salvation. Nobody wants to do the work, but they want salvation. All right. So let's go to Matthew 19 real quick, 19:16 through 24. Let's see what Christ said about it. What did he say about what we got to do to get the kingdom? We've read this before.
The book of Matthew. Let's see. The book of Matthew, chapter 19.
Yeah, 19:16 through 24.
The book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 16. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, What good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. He said unto him, Which? Jesus said, Thou shalt do no murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The young man said unto him, All these things have I kept from my youth. From my youth up. What lack I yet? Jesus said unto him, If thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, Verily I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God.
All right, so Christ is telling us that this guy, this young man, he coveted material things so much that he didn't want to give it up to get the kingdom of heaven. And there are the majority of people in this society that have the same thought process as this young man, that they feel like, you know what, they worked hard their whole lives, you know, all the hard work they put in to buy their home, to buy their cars, you know what I mean, to be able to go on these lavish vacations, put their kids through college, all of this, they're unwilling to actually give up in order to follow Christ. There are the majority of the people that if it came down to it, they wouldn't be willing to give this stuff up. They wouldn't do it. They would be just like this young man here. They would turn their back and walk away and be like, well, can't do it. See it every day. All you have to watch Israelites in the streets teaching. And how many times you go to talk to somebody on the streets and they just turn their back and walk away. Don't want to hear what you got to say. It happens at least every Sabbath. All right, it's nothing new. So the majority of the people are going to be like this young man. What did Christ say he needed to do in order? And he's the one that came to Christ. Christ didn't go to him. He went to Christ excitedly asking, what do I got to do to get the kingdom? What do I have to do? He wanted the answer, but he didn't really want to hear the answer. It wasn't the answer that he wanted. It says, he saith unto him, which Jesus said, Thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. All right. So what is he naming off to him? The 10 Commandments, which includes thou shalt not covet, which Christ was actually trying to show unto him. He didn't list Commandment 10 when he was naming off the commandments, because he wanted to show the man through his actions that he was breaking Commandment 10. That's crazy, right? He didn't name off Commandment 10 because he wanted to show him, you know what, you're breaking Commandment 10. That's why it's not named, because Christ wanted to let him see for himself that I don't even have to name it, because you're breaking it. And I'm going to show you that you're breaking it. I'm going to open your eyes up and let you see that you're breaking Commandment 10. That, again, go back and listen to the conversation that they're having right here. He said, and behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. Plain and simple, keep the commandments. Then the young man said, what? He said unto him, which? He's like, but which ones? Jesus said, thou shalt do no murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So Christ is playing with them. When you just step back and listen to what's being said, Christ purposely left that off. Thou shalt not covet. Because he knew what the young man was going to say. The young man's like, hey, but I keep all of those. I keep all those commandments. And I'm sure Christ was kind of chuckling to himself, like, hey, yeah, but you're not keeping the one I didn't name. Thou shalt not covet. And that's why he said to him. Jesus said unto him, if thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. So Christ is just like, you know what? I don't even have to name them. I'm just going to show you through your actions that you're not keeping the 10th commandment. You're very covetous. No, you haven't been keeping all the commandments. And I'm going to show you. And so Christ put him on the spot. Like, you know what? I'm going to put you on blast. All right, if you want to be perfect, go sell everything you got and come follow me. Plain and simple. Get rid of, I know you got money. I can see it with Christ is probably looking at it. You know, I can see it. Everything you got on, you got the jewelry, you got on a nice garment. Hair is probably, you know, tight, you know, looking like $1,000,000, like somebody like today. Christ is looking at him and said, okay, I am about to put you on blast. Go get rid of everything you got and come follow me. But Christ already knew what he was going to do. Said, but when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. He didn't even stop to even think and realize what was going on. He didn't even understand that Christ just put him on the spot. He had no clue what was actually going on there, that Christ was playing with him. He had no clue. He had no idea Christ was pointing out to him that he was breaking commandment 10, because his mind was so caught up in the fact that he didn't want to give up his possessions. That's what it came down to. His mind was so far onto his material things, those things that are the lust of the flesh. He was so caught up in that he didn't even realize that Christ was trying to tell him, like, look, you're breaking commandment 10. Repent. Basically, what Christ is trying to tell him, repent from breaking this commandment and come follow me, and you'll be good. You'll get what you want. You say you want the kingdom. Couldn't have been any more simple than that. All Christ was telling, like, you know what? You are making one mistake. You're breaking commandment 10. Repent, come follow me, and you'll be straight. And the young man's mind was so messed up. His conscience was so full of material, you know, so being so materialistic and so caught up in the money that he has and all his possessions, that he didn't even realize that Christ was giving him a chance to repent, follow him, and get the kingdom. That's crazy, right? He didn't even understand that. He didn't even, it went right over his head. And which is the same thing with a lot of our people. When we're here teaching and other Israelites are online teaching or out in the streets teaching and teaching you the commandments of the Most High, teaching you the commandments, you know, of the scriptures, teaching you repentance, and it goes right over your head because your mind is caught up on the things of the world. A lot of our people, their minds are so caught up on the things of the world, the lust of the flesh, that it just goes over, and they can't see it, they can't hear it, they refuse to. Just like this young man right here. Seriously, think about when, again, I implore you, when you go and read the scriptures, really think about what, especially when it comes to talking to Christ, especially with his parables. You know what I mean? Um, which is funny because some of our brothers, they still refuse to believe that Christ is the God of the Old Testament, which is crazy. Um, go to the go to Ezekiel 20 and read verses 40 and 48.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20 and verse 40.
48 and 49, I mean.
48 and verse
Yeah,
48.
48 and 49.
Okay. And it says, and all flesh shall see that I, the Lord, have kindled it. It shall not be quenched. Then said I, Ah, Lord God, they say of men, doth he not speak parables?
Actually says, they say of me, that he not speak parables. Who's the he that is talking about? It's talking about the Lord that he's speaking to right here. Then said I, Ah, Lord God, they say of me, doth he not speak parables? Who's the one speaking parables in the Old Testament? That is the same person that's speaking parables in the New Testament. Like I said, there are so many ways you can go and show that Christ was the God of the Old Testament, that it still baffles my mind that so many of our brothers are out here still arguing and debating about whether or not Christ is the God of the Old Testament. And again, what does that come down to? That comes down to covetousness. Being covetous, wanting to have the preeminence, wanting to be the greatest cat that's got all the breakdown, that that they know everything. They know everything that the Bible says, but they can't figure out a simple thing as that Christ is the God that was dealing with Israel in the Old Testament. All right. Um, let's go back to Matthew 19. And I just wanted to point that out really quick because, um, again, it's another obvious clue that is written in the Old Testament to show you who it was that was dealing with the Israelites. The same person that was speaking parables to Israel in the Old Testament is the same person that came down in the flesh and was speaking parables to Israel in the New Testament. Same person. All right. Um, going back to Matthew 19. So again, why are we talking about this? Because just like this young man that came to Christ and asked the question, how does he get the kingdom? Because again, there are a lot of Christians out there that claim they're Christ-like. They say they're Christians. They say they want to get, salvation. Some of them will argue with you, yell and scream that, salvation is not just for the Israelites, it's for all, it's for everybody. But they will not do nothing that the Bible says. And just like this young man, they say they want the kingdom, they desire to have it, but they don't want to do what's necessary in order to get it, which isn't hard to do. It wouldn't have been hard for that young man to like, you know what? If that's what I got to do to get the kingdom, take it all. Who you want to point them out? Who you want me to give it to? Who needs it? But instead, he just ducked his head down and walked away with his head low, just like, man, he asking too much. That's too much. You asking too much. That's how our people are. You know, you doing too much. You're asking too much. How would you feel if Christ was standing right in front of you and said, you know what? And you got a chance to ask him, what do I got to do to get the kingdom of heaven? What do I got to do? What am I doing wrong? And he flat out tells you, all right, this is what you're doing wrong. So just repent, come follow me, and you're good. Would you not jump at that? I'd jump at it. No, well, you know, without a doubt, Christ standing in front of me, so telling me exactly what I need to do to get the kingdom, you jump at it. But you see, the thing is, he's telling us without him actually standing here in front of us. He's given us an example. He left us an example written right here in the scriptures. And again, it goes right over the heads of our people. Again, like I said, go read it and really think about what's going on here and analyze what's really going on, and you will see that Christ set him up. It was one of those, you know, little subliminal setups where he was like, okay, you asked, I'm gonna tell you. And he purposely left out, thou shalt not covet. He did that for a reason. Because he knew the young man was breaking commandment 10. So therefore he didn't list it. Because he wanted to kind of mess with him a little bit. He wanted to play with him. Wanted to see what he was gonna do, even though he most likely already knew what he was gonna do. Said, okay, I know you're breaking commandment 10, so let's see what you do. Well, I keep those. I keep all those commandments. Christ is standing there just like, okay, all right. You don't keep all of them. So without telling him flat out that, hey, you know what, you're breaking commandment 10, again, he just subtly gave him like, you know what, all right, I know you're rich. No, you got all these possessions. Go sell everything you got and come follow me. Everything will be all right. That'll get you the kingdom. You're breaking commandment. Basically, again, what Christ was telling you, you're breaking commandment 10. Repent. Come follow me. All will be good. The young man didn't want to do it. All right. So let's go to Exodus 20 and 17. This is what Christ left out.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 17. And it says, thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is in thy neighbor's.
All right. So again, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. So the first thing you got to ask yourself is, what exactly does it mean to covet? Because a lot of people don't really know. A lot of these biblical words are not used in everyday society. So you got to go and look them up for our people and give them the meaning. So we're going to actually show you covet meaning. Let me share again. Or stop sharing that. Share screen, share screen. There you go. All right, it's there. So covet meaning, pretty simple. Yearn to possess or have something. Yearn to possess or have something. Synonyms meaning similar words. Desiring to possess or have something. Crave to possess or have something. Want to possess or have something. Fancy to possess or have something. Being consumed with desire for. All right. Let's see what Merriam-Webster says. So you got covet as a verb. Coveted, coveting, covets. To wish for earnestly. To desire what belongs to another inordinately or culpably. Intransitive verb, to feel inordinate desire for what belongs to another. Covetable, coveter, covetingly. Couple of synonyms. Crave, want. All right. So here's some more: desire, wish, want, crave, covet. Desire, wish, want, crave, covet. So basically, thou shalt not desire thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not desire thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not desire his manservant, his maidservant, his ox, his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. Let's put that in today's terms. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's car. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's jewelry. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's job. You know what I mean? That's what he says. Anything that's your neighbor's, anything that's your neighbor's. Shouldn't be desiring it, wishing for it, wanting it, craving it, or as the Bible puts it, coveting it. All these words are interchangeable. All right. So the word desire says stresses the strength of feeling and often implies strong intention or aim. A wish sometimes implies a general or transient longing, especially for the unattainable. Want specifically suggests a felt need or lack. Crave stresses the force of physical appetite or emotional need. Covet implies strong, envious desire. All right. So let's look up that word envy, because that's part of being covetous. A lot of people don't understand that. Envy. Oh, there he goes, moving slow. All right. You can see it, right?
There it is. Yeah.
Can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
So envy, plural, envies as a noun. Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with the desire to possess the same advantage. An object of envious notice or feeling. As a transitive verb, to feel envy toward or an account of. Begrudge. All right. What are some synonyms? Jealousy, hatred, resentment. And see, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't correlate envy with hatred, or even jealousy with hatred, even though it is crystal clear when you see situations or instances where people are showing feelings of jealousy or envy, that what comes along with that is hatred. A lot of people don't see that, resentment. Okay. So you could go down the rabbit hole of all of these with jealousy or resentment. All of these fall under covetousness. It says a feeling of indignant displeasure or persistent ill will at something regarded as a wrong. All right. So, like we said in the other video that we have, we break down every single one of these, um, and go through the Bible and shows what the Bible has to say about each and every one of these, about envy, about jealousy, and so on. All right. Um, it's a pretty in-depth lesson. We're not going that in depth with it today. All right. But we want you to have a basic understanding of what these words mean, or what these commandments mean. All right. Because again, the only way we can teach you how to not break the commandments is by teaching you the commandments. How are you going to know if you're breaking it if you don't know, if you don't know the commandments? If you don't know them, you don't know that you're breaking. All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy 5 and 21. Is basically saying the same thing as Exodus 20 and 17. Just worded a little different.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5 and verse 21. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is in thy neighbor's.
All right. So you notice on this one, it actually uses the word desire. So letting us know that along with being covetous, that word desire or craving or wanting or longing goes along with this commandment. All right. So the Lord didn't, he didn't uh, write these commandments in a way to where there would be questions as to how to interpret them. All right. Um, so this is pretty straightforward. Thou shalt not covet. We're not to desire anything that our neighbor has. But again, when you look at American society, um, this is what they push. Um, it comes down to one word. All right, let me type it in and I'll show it to you. And all you got to do is go back to the 80s under Ronald Reagan, and you will see when America really, really, really started pushing this. All right. Let me go back. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. This word right here, capitalism, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. I just kind of loud. I just caught myself. I guess I'm finding myself watching too much of Bishop Nathaniel because he says that all the time. right here. So, but capitalism, you go back and look at Reagan's presidency. That's what they really started pushing under Reagan was capitalism. And as you can see, what falls under that? Individualism. The habit or principle being independent and self-reliant. Independence, self-direction, self-reliance, free thinking, which all of it goes contrary to what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches us community. The Bible teaches us nationalism. You know what I mean? It's not about you as the individual, it's about your nation. But America says it's all about me, 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 me. A social theory favoring freedom of action for individuals over collective or state control. But what do you think is going to happen when Christ comes back? It's going to be it's not going to be a democracy when Christ comes back. You're going to do what God says, or that's going to be all she wrote. You know what I mean? There isn't going to be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No individualism, but I'm an individual. I'm a free thinker. It's not going to be happening. And then there's some videos you can go and watch about individualism. But again, it comes back to that one word, capitalism. Um, let me see. Let's go to Merriam-Webster. An economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decision and by prices, production, and the distribution of goods that are determined mainly by competition in a what they call a free market. Free market, an economic system in which prices are based on competition among private businesses and are not controlled or regulated by a government, which is a lie. A market operating by free competition. If you really believe that the prices in America are governed by free competition, you're delusional. Because the government's hand is in all of it. All right. Um, oh, I didn't hit the, oh, you couldn't see that, huh? Okay. I'm reading this right here, free market. Is it showing up now?
Yeah. Yep.
Did it show up? Okay, yeah, I didn't realize I didn't, so I hadn't switched it. But a free market. So, like I said, if you think that America is truly a free market system, you're delusioned. You're delusional because it's not. It says a free market technically requires no government intervention, which is why capitalists usually land on the right of the political spectrum. In America, the government regulates businesses for reasons of social welfare and public safety. So we don't operate in a truly free market. See, they're telling you we don't truly operate in a free market. We don't. America does not. It's not truly a free market. As of the definition of what a free market is, it's a lie. It's a scam. If America was built upon a free market system, why would when let's think of home ownership? Why would you need a Fannie Mae and what's the other one? Is it Freddie Mac or something like that? Fannie Mae. I can't remember the name of the other one. Why would you need? Why would the government need to be stepping in and creating these programs? Think about that. If it was really based upon a free market system, think about healthcare and drug coverage. the government wouldn't be stepping in uh, and having anything to do at all with um, with the healthcare. If it was truly a free market system, you would just have these privately owned hospitals, these doctors, you know what I mean, privately owned, and people, you know what I mean. If you want to buy it, you go buy it. You go to where you feel like, okay, that doctor over there is the best. I'm going to him. That doctor, oh, he's better. I'm going to him. Oh, he's got better prices. I'm going to him. It's not what you see going on. That's not what's happening. The government's hand is all up in the healthcare system and every other business entity that you could think of, corporate entity. And the reason why is because these corporate entities are the ones that are getting these people elected through what? Their funding of their elections, giving them campaign contributions, the pay to play system. Again, take a step back and really watch what's going on. All right, so let's go back. So again, capitalism. Capitalism is what drives Easter, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, and every other holiday and thing that's going like, what is it? Is the Super Bowl this weekend? I believe it's Sunday, right? Let me see. Because I know I saw something. Let me see. Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Okay. So what is one of the biggest things that people look forward to seeing when they watch the Super Bowl? It's become a pastime now. And it's so crazy that people don't even realize that they've been brainwashed into thinking the way they do about the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl advertisements. You see how every year they talk about, they make it a big deal. Oh, the ads for the Super Bowl. Let's see. You can't see what I'm typing in, huh? Oh, let me come back and share my screen again because all this stuff is just popping up in my head. Hold on. Share screen, share screen. Can you see it?
Yes, there it is.
All right. So it's showing Super Bowl is on Sunday, 3:30. Didn't even know who's playing in it. Seahawks, Patriots, I guess. Um, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to type in what's the cost of an ad for the Super Bowl. So let's find what is the average ad cost in order to put it on TV. Wow. Wow. Can you see that? Or did it not come up?
A little small. I can't see it. What is it?
Oh, okay. So approximately $8 million. The cost of a Super Bowl ad for 2026 is approximately $8 million for a 30-second commercial. Some brands have paid up to $10 million for premium placements, reflecting the high demand and attention the Super Bowl generates. And people really want to believe that evil communication don't corrupt good manners. Because when you bring that precept out to people, they go against it. Like, no, that's not true. There's no way that The things that people are watching, the video games, they have no bearing on how these kids grow up. And it's like, okay, if that's true, then why is it that back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was unheard of for kids to be going around committing um, mass pew pews at their schools? You know what I mean? It was unheard of for groups of kids to go storming into a store, breaking windows, breaking glass, and running out the store with a bunch of clothes. It was unheard of at that time for young kids to be running around the streets with pew pews in their hands, carjacking people. But now all of a sudden, it's like a pastime that these kids is just what is just something to do. So you go back and think about Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? I don't know why I can never remember the name of that game that came out. It was like during the early 2000s. Was it? I think it was on PlayStation 2. Um, oh my God, what was that game called? What is it called when the people riot? Let me see. I'll just type this in. What was the name of the video game that mimicked um, people rioting? This one in 2019 I've never heard of. Yeah, there's another one that came out in the earlier 2000s that yeah, this civil unrest I've never heard of. Let me see. What was the name of the early 2000s video game? Let me see if that. No, it wasn't Max Payne. Um, this is, yeah, I don't know why I cannot remember the name of that game, but it was a video game that came out. I believe it was on PlayStation 2, where basically the whole premise of the game um, was going around rioting. And it came out somewhere after, I want to say, Grand Theft Auto 3. Let me see. Let me try this. What video games mimic rioting? It gives a. The only one that keeps coming up is that same one. me try this. What PlayStation 2 video games mimic writing? Oh, that's what it was. Okay. State of emergency. This is it. They actually have a video. I'll get to my point in a second. Is it coming up? All right. That's what it was called. It was called State of Emergency. Is it playing?
Since the collapse of the federal government and the global economic crisis, the corporation has been building a brighter future for its citizens. Based on principles of order, loyalty, and civic obedience, the corporation has created a nation that all citizens can feel proud of.
For the whole family. And remember, Friday is Double Ration Day at Rocket Burger, where your corporation food vouchers are worth double points. So blast off to Rocket Burger.
Meanwhile, the police have imposed a citywide lockdown on areas of capital cities as riot control units
If you
are
suspect
dispatched.
someone with illegal
Please
activity
obey the
or
curfew.
radical symptoms, please call our 24-hour hotline.
Hold it right there! Read! Everybody! Tough boy now!
State of emergency, the waters on diplomacy won't cure it. Fire on the concrete and blood stains on the surface. Tried for our freedom till the
Okay, now you see what's going on today with the youth of America, and you're telling me that video games like this had nothing to do with it. That's crazy, right?
world heard it, observe it, anarchy emerges. Lambs overcame the lions. Our souls versus their science. They control versus our violence. Bring your riot gear and bring your sirens. We won't stop them, we won't be silent. Socialization and
I get the point. So video games like that, we all know about the Grand Theft Auto games, but it wasn't just Grand Theft Auto. It was games like this that when you go back and you look at some of these games, what was the other one that even came out before that? Doom. From if I remember correctly, that it was the video game Doom that supposedly, I guess, in a way, gave the Columbine guys, you know, the ones that committed that atrocity back then in the 90s, that gave them the thoughts of going out doing what they did. All right, the original Doom. So for people to sit back and say that, you know, these video games, the movies, none of that's got nothing to do with it is a lie. It's got everything to do with the Bible tells us. Grab that in is that 1 Corinthians 15:33?
For God is not the author of confusion.
No, maybe it's 2 Corinthians
Oh,
15:33.
no, it is. You're right. The book of
Okay.
1 Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
Evil communications corrupt good manners. So let me try and catch up to 1 Corinthians 15. and 33. Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. And when you go back and again, you look at the video games, you look at the movies, you look at the music, everything that was coming out during that time of the 90s to the mid like 2010s is when you started seeing some of these problems subtly start to show up. And then now here it is 20 years later, 25, 26 years later. Look at the state of America and look at the state of America's youth and the way that they act and the way that they dress, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. All right. All of this comes down to America pushing covetousness. These kids wanting to, desiring to be like their idols. You know what I mean? You could even go back to the early 90s. People were not, running around getting tattoos. You know what I mean? It was very few people that had tattoos were either gang members, prisoners, people that been locked up, or your biker gangs. Those are the people that you saw walking around with tattoos on. And then all of a sudden, UFC comes around, and you see the UFC fighters, more and more tattoos showing up. Then all of a sudden it started transferring over into football, into basketball, and now it's just become a normal thing in society that these kids are growing up. You're seeing kids in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, having tattoos. And it's like, how are you getting these tattoos if you're supposedly got to be 18 in order to go into a tattoo parlor and get a tattoo? How are you doing it? You know what I mean? If you don't have a parent's permission to go into that tattoo parlor to get that tattoo, how are these kids getting them? You know what I mean? So again, this all comes down to covetousness. These kids desiring to be like these athletes, these stars, these singers, these rappers that they want to emulate. Just like the sagging of the pants. When we did the lesson about thou shalt not steal, we showed several videos about these kids, out there with their pants sagging. You know what I mean? You usually can point them out, but it's everywhere now. You go to these suburban schools and you see the little white boys walking around, little Edomites walking around with their pants sagging. It's not just in the hood anymore. You know what I mean? You see them walking around with their pants sagging, tattoos, hoodies on. You know what I mean? And all of them are walking. Even the little nerdy kids are trying to walk around and talk tough and act tough. Have you noticed that at your kid's school? It's like even your average everyday A student is walking around with their pants sagging with a hoodie on, and you hear, the words coming out of their mouths and the way that they carry themselves. They walk around with their head, chins up in the air, trying to strut with their, chest stuck out. And again, go back, UFC came around in the early 90s. Was it 93, I believe, the first UFC came out? And that was one of the arguments that was given when it's like, do we really want to allow this? Because a lot of traditional martial artists at that time was like, no, we can't do that. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we trying to teach society? You know what I mean? They try to warn people. You let this into society and you're going to see 20 years, 30 years from now, you're going to see a very violent society. The violence in society is going to escalate. at an astronomical number. And it, again, with the video games, with the music and all of it, people were given the warnings. But again, who won out? Capitalism, the corporations, the music industry stepped in and said, hey, you know what? This is what we'll do. We'll put a label on the music. We'll put a label on the CDs. A lot of good that did, right? When you had parents buying the music for their kids anyway, or the kids just stealing the music out of the stores. Same thing with the video games. What good did it do to slap a label on the video game when the parents just turned around and bought the video games for the kids anyway? It didn't make any sense. The same thing with the movies. You have these movie ratings, TV show ratings, which mean nothing because the majority of the shows that are coming out that are about teenage life is all about sex, drugs, partying, drinking, and everything else, every other sin you could think of. But they want you to believe that evil communication has got nothing to do with corrupting the manners of these kids. It's got everything to do with it. Why do we know? Because the Bible says it. We're reading it right here. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. And that comes back down to what we're talking about today, being covetous. All right. Let's go to the book of Psalms. You're going to go to Psalms chapter 10. And you're going to read verses 1 through 4.
The book of Psalms, chapter 10 and verse 1. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in time of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken into the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorred. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts.
So we got to remember that the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. And what we're reading about right here is the reason why the world is in the state that it's in right now. And it comes down to the wicked, meaning Esau and his people, the nation, the beast system that they've set up. What is it all about? As it says, for the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. And it's telling us the Lord hates people that have that covetous spirit on them. The Lord hates it. But the wicked, even the wicked of our people, you see it again when you go back and you look at what goes on in society today, look at social media. What is it all about? People boasting of the things that they have or boasting about the things that they want. Go to YouTube, go to TikTok. You know what I mean? People putting on their, ready to live my best life, and, 2026 coming around and posting about their New Year's resolutions, new year, new me, and all this stuff. The wicked boasteth of his heart's desire. Yeah, this year, I'm gonna, try and get into investing and, all kinds of stuff that people are bragging about, ways, I'm gonna diversify my portfolio, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be doing that, and I'm gonna get my money right. You hear all this foolishness. And that's what these people are. They don't understand. They don't realize that everything that America's been pushing is wicked. And it's of the wicked. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. Again, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. When you look at this system that they've put together, it shows you that God is not in all their thoughts, even though they put on the back of their dollar bills, "In God we trust." That's why when you hear people in America and throughout the world talk about God, I pray to God, I love God, they don't even know what God they're talking about. Sometimes you say, well, what God are you talking about? Which God are you praying to? Which God are you trusting in? Do you even know? Because America has just made, the word God just, it's a very broad term. And even in the Bible, there are many gods mentioned in the Bible, many. So you got to ask yourself, which God are you actually serving? Like, do you know? Because you're not serving the God of this Bible. Because the system that you're following, they don't have God in their thoughts. They did not have God in their thoughts when they set this system up. Everything in this system is contrary to what God teaches in the Bible. Everything. Again, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts, but they for sure will hold the Bible. Remember when the George Floyd protests were going on, and Trump, during his first term, went out in the street and stood there for the camera moment and held the Bible up like this and chest stuck out like. It was fake. Trump don't care nothing about the Bible. Everything Trump does and says is completely opposite of what the Bible teaches. So, and in fact, you know what? That is brilliant. I just want to say real quick that um, I was watching Deacon Asaph last night. I'm glad somebody said something about that picture that Trump and the administration posted up about the Obamas. Did you see that picture? Did you hear about that story? No?
Mm.
So yesterday on the so-called, I guess, the official White House, what do you call it? X now that he calls it, but Twitter page, some little article along with a picture of the Obamas, looking like, basically they put their heads on some primates, basically call Michelle and Barack Obama, basically monkeys, making fun of our people. And so you could tell it was quickly being brushed under the rug. The post was taken down. And when Trump was asked about it, he, basically, they already, apologized. He said, apologize for what? I ain't apologizing. He flat out said, I'm not apologizing. And to try and play it down through the pride of his countenance. He's not going to seek after God. It's like, they're not going to tell you the real story behind it. He was basically trying to say that what the story was really about was campaign fraud or something like that. He was saying, it was like, come on now. You know what I mean? So, so ASAP did a class about it last night. And honestly, he's the only person I saw that actually said anything. You know what I mean? Throughout the day, you just saw a couple of little news articles pop up and then they slowly kind of like disappeared. It just kind of like was getting brushed under the rug. Nobody was really talking, especially from, our people. It's like, wait a minute, where's the uproar? You know what I mean? It's like, well, where's everybody at all of a sudden? You would think that with everything going on right now, they would have been, you know, chastising Trump. Like, where is what is her name? Is her name OAC or AOC? What is her name? What is she? The congresswoman, senator, whatever she is, AOC or OAC. What is her name? Give me a second. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that lady. They call her AOC for her initials. Let me. But you would think that, one of them, somebody would have been going off and saying something about it, but it was nothing. Nobody saying, and especially that this is supposedly Black History Month, and they did this, and not a peep, not a word from no celebrities, no basketball player, no football player, no movie industry people, no nothing, no music industry people. Nobody said nothing. So this lady right here, she's yeah, she's a congresswoman. So she's talked about a lot in the news. But you would think, where's the uproar? Let me see if I can find that picture. I bet you probably can't even find the picture now. Oh, it wasn't on X. It was on his own thing. I thought it was on X, but it was on his Truth Social. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to find the picture now. Let's see if it actually shows up. Oh man, see if I don't have no X account. Age restricted adult content. This content might not be appropriate for people under 18 years old to view this media. You need to log into X, learn more. It's not going to happen. See, that I'm saying you're not even going to be able to find it. Let me see. Yeah, you're not going to be able to find it anywhere. But it was a picture of the Obamas as apes, and like I said, now they're trying to say Trump condemned the video, but that's not what happened at all. But like I said, the only person I saw that really said anything about it was the class that Deacon Asaph did last night. Other than that, it was, quiet. Nobody saying nothing about it. So let's get back to it. Let me see. Share screen. All right. So from there, we just finished Psalms 10 and 1 through 10. Let's go to Sirach 18. And you're going to read verses 30 through 31.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 18 and verse 30. And it says, go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine uh, appetites.
Appetites.
Appetites. Thank you. Read it again. Go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If thou givest thy soul thy desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thy enemies that malign thee.
Malign thee.
Malign thee.
Malign thee. So it says, go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. So the Bible is actually warning us when it comes to covetousness. Because sometimes, you know how when you're a little kid, you may say you want something, oh, I'm hungry, buy me this or buy me that. I want some McDonald's or something like that. And your mom or your dad be like, your eyes are bigger than your appetite. You ain't gonna be able to eat all that. You just want it just to have it. You know what I mean? And that carries over into adulthood with a lot of adults that they don't really need certain things. They just want it just to have it. You know what I mean? Just because they desire to have it, not that it's something that they absolutely, really need. Um, but at the same time, too, if you're in a position to where you can, you know what I mean, it's something you want to have and the Lord's blessed you with it, then by all means. But when it comes to covetousness, let's say I've seen this happen in families. Somebody in the family buys a new house, one family member. So now that spirit of envy, that spirit of jealousy jumps on another member or other members of the family. So now they got to go out and buy a new house. But when they go out and buy their house, they got to make sure they get a better house, a bigger house. You know what I mean? A newer house, one in a better neighborhood. And so now, they go out and they, buy a better house to outdo. Now, did they really need to go out and buy a new house? Was it really needed? No. Why did they do it? Because of covetousness. They just saw that somebody else bought a home, so they desired to have get one that they just had to outdo them. All right. So again, in a lot of these situations, I've seen where people got themselves in trouble by doing that. Went and bought more house than they could afford. And the next thing you know, after 4, 5, 6, 7 years, especially during the 2008 housing market crash, to see the number of people lose their homes was crazy. So many people that lost their homes. And the only reason why they fell into the trap comes back to what? That word we talked about earlier. Number one, capitalism. People just, realtors being greedy, um, lenders being greedy, everybody out for money, everybody out for greed because of their lust, because of greed. And next thing you know, you have a big old mess on your hands where millions of people across the country lost homes. Millions. People in such dire situations that they just started walking away from their homes. All right. And actually, you see the same thing going on. The same thing's going to happen pretty soon if you're not paying attention to what's going on. In fact, um, it's funny because if you really listen to what's going on, it would show you how much of what's the word I'm looking for? How much of a scam the housing market is today, of buying a home is today. The moment they went to the 30-year mortgage is the day that buying a house became a scam. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, go back. Let's do a quick little research here.
While you search that, YouTube has the picture you wanted to show of the Obamas.
Oh, they got it.
YouTube
Where
has
you
it,
said
yeah.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Let me go there first. YouTube. Now we got to figure out which one it is.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. Let me stop sharing. Because all I want is just a picture so that people can see this is what they posted or what he posted. And which makes it even worse because I didn't know it was on his Truth Social. I thought it was because it said it originally popped up on X back in October. So the one that he posted was just from yesterday or the other day. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So Trump's post showing Obama's as primates is deleted after backlash, despite White House earlier. Uh, I don't want to watch the video, but that's the picture, though, basically. So again, how is this going to get posted? And again, where is the backlash from? Where you know what I mean? Where are all the celebrities at? What happened? Where are they at? Where's the outrage? Where you know what I mean? Anytime anything else happens, they're supposedly outraged and they're mad and angry and it's silence. You know what I mean? It's just especially what about what is it? Those groups like Blacks for Trump and Latinos for Trump and things like that. Like, well, where are they at? Nobody's saying anything. So, like I said, I was glad to see that Deacon Asaph did a whole class about it last night because it was quiet all through. I saw it early in the morning when it first started, like hitting the news, and throughout the day, nothing, nothing, nothing. Nobody saying nothing about it. And then now I forgot what I was about to go look up before you said that. We were at Sirach 18:30, go not after thy lust, but from thine appetites. I know it had something to do with capitalism. All right, we'll keep going on. If it pops back in my head, it'll pop back in my head. So let me share this again. Man, can't remember what it was. All right, so going back to Sirach 18:30, though, go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. So again, the Bible's warning us. Don't give into what your heart desires or what your mind desires at all. You know what I mean? Um, what you see, like it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Um, we were talking. Oh, that's what it was. We were talking about the housing market. That's what I was about to look up. Now it got me. Okay. Now I remember. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find it. All right, so I found that. Give me a second. Just give me a second, you guys. Bear with me. Just give me a minute. Uh, I'm trying to find the exact quote that he used because people are not paying attention. See, you remember what I said when Trump first started running for office? Remember, I said the reason why they're putting him in office, they want this man in office, is because they have a plan for the housing market and people are not going to like it. And they're going to gentrify the entire country. And the best way to do it is to do what? Bring in somebody to the office of the presidency who's got what? A history and knowledge in real estate. And people have not been paying attention. Um, there's one quote that he made that I might have to go to the video. Let me see. YouTube. All right, so let me go again and share this. Yeah, I'm telling you, people are not paying attention to what's going on. These people are out here buying homes, um, doing what they want to do, and not realizing that they're really setting themselves up for hurt. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to click on this one.
If you live in a California zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen.
I'm going to ask Scott Turner to speak really quickly about housing because, in my opinion, I have very strong opinions on housing. That's what I did for a long time. I did good with it. But, we got to get interest rates down even lower. They are now pretty low, but we got to get them lower. And I'm a big factor. To me, the biggest factor is interest rates for housing. Only in that, you have a lot of people that have become wealthy in the last year because their house value has gone up. And, when you get the housing, when you make it too easy and too cheap to buy houses, those values come down. I don't want those values to come down. We have millions of people that own houses, and for the first time in their life, they're wealthy.
Listen real close to what he's saying.
Because the house is worth $500,000 or $600,000 or more or less, but more money than it's ever been worth before. I don't want to do anything to knock that down. And so I want to be very careful with this. You make housing, I can turn on housing immediately, but you make it too easy and you're going to knock the value down of people that own houses. I want to, for those people, those millions of people that own houses, we're going to drive those values up. But we're also going to try making it easier for people to buy. The best thing that can happen for both groups of people is lower interest rates, and those interest rates are coming down. And with a proper, intelligent person at the Fed, that person will be able to work with us to get interest rates down. That covers all of the sins. It covers everything. Lower interest rates keeps the values up for the people that have housing and lets other people buy housing. And Scott, if you could just expand quickly on that.
Yes, sir. You did allude to when we first.
All right. So just listen to what he's saying. There's another quote. I want to get to it, that when he says it, if you get it, you'll be like, okay. Where he says something like, we want them to continue feeling like they're wealthy. But I want to find it because when I was like, people are not listening to what this man is saying.
First came in, sir, you know, our fiscal house in America was a mess. But because of your economic policies, the economy is thriving. And I do have some good
Sellout
news
right
to
here.
share. As you said, you know, good news. I hope this.
Let's think about this for a minute. Who is this good for? He's saying, I don't want to drive the price of houses down, but I want to make the interest rates lower to make it easier for people to buy. But what people is he talking about? Because it doesn't matter how low you get the interest rates, your average everyday Judah, Northern Kingdom, our people are not able to afford these homes. The majority of our people are not affording a 450,000, 500,000, there are some homes now, even in Stockton, that are going for $1 million now, which is unheard of in Stockton. Homes, unless, you know, they were that one certain part of Murata where they have those $1 million homes like tucked away way in the corner. But other than, I'm talking about your average everyday suburban home now costing $1 million in Stockton. It's crazy. So who is this for? This is for his people. It's not for us. So earlier when I said that when they wanted to gentrify the entire country, and he said it, I've been in real estate. This is what I've been good. This is what I've done. This is what I was good at. I did good. Patting himself on the shoulder. You want to gentrify the entire country and drive so-called blacks and Hispanics out of certain states and neighborhoods and things like that. What better way to do it is to drive the prices up, which makes affording these homes way, way out of our budgets, way out, but lower the interest rates because it makes it more feasible for his people. But he knows that the majority of our people, there might be less than 1% of our people that might be able to afford these homes. But the majority of our people are not going to be able to afford these homes.
Just to make the interest rates continue to go down. But because of your policies, sir, home sales in December, they rose sharply to their strongest pace in 3 years. A lot of people, when we first came in particular young people, were concerned and asking the question whether they would ever be able to afford to buy a house in America, which is the American dream. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate dipped to a multi-year lows, driving monthly payments down for the 2 years at the lowest levels. So more people can get a mortgage now. More families can be able to afford to get a home and achieve the American dream. At HUD last year, we helped and supported over 1 million people through FHA and Ginnie Mae to be able to buy a home. 500,000 of those were first-time home buyers, and hundreds of thousands of our veterans we supported. And so that's good news that millions of people in our country are now beginning to buy homes. We also, sir, value of houses.
By the way, we have to give him credit. Senator, he's a great guy. Tim Scott came to see me, first administration, first term, and he had this idea for opportunity zones. And he gave me the idea. We did it. We implemented it. It's one of the most successful programs in the history of our country, and nobody talks about it. The press doesn't talk about it. But I want to just tell you, Tim Scott, Senator, South Carolina, did a great job, right?
Did a wonderful job, yes, sir.
Did a good job. He's a good man.
Yes, sir. And so those have been made permanent now. Will help
I'm
millions
serious.
of
Look at
Americans
this
to be able
sellout
to
sitting here.
afford to buy homes. Also,
We
the
know
One Big
good
Beautiful
well that
Bill,
what they're
has
doing
been
is having a
allowing
major
HUD to
impact
make
on
sure,
our people.
working with Department of Homeland Security,
And at
that
the same
every
time, while they're taking away
person that lives
Section
in
8 and
HUD-funded
everything
housing is
else,
an American
you
citizen.
know, those things that
A
were
blind
helping
eye
our
has
people
been
in
turned
poverty.
prior to us being here to people living in HUD-funded housing, but
And
no
you can
more.
even
We're
see
going to
the
take
lady
account
sitting next to him.
and
You can tell she
transparency.
was disgusted
Make
that he's
sure.
sitting
And
there
so there's
next
a
to
lot
her.
of crime that goes
Look at
on
that
in
look
public
on her
housing,
face.
but we're coming after the criminals and making sure that everybody in there is an American citizen. So thank you for your support. We now have taken possession of our new building in Alexandria, and we're going to save the American taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. So, sir, thank you for your support and your leadership.
Thank you, Scott. Great job.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. One of the things Scott said, though, is again, existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can buy a home. We're going to make it easier to buy. We're going to get interest rates down. But I want to protect the people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like that they're wealthy people.
That's what I was waiting for. You hear what he said, right? Let's listen to that again.
About themselves. They feel like that they're wealthy people.
You hear it, right?
The people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like that they're wealthy people. And I want them to understand it. There's so much talk about, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen.
You hear what he's saying, right? I'm going to drive home prices up. He's talking about people, those people. But the key word is they're feeling like, I want them feeling like they're wealthy. Not that they're actually wealthy, but want you feeling like you're wealthy. Because what people are not paying attention to is that basically what they're doing, the plan is that they're using the taxes from people's homes, because tax assessments get done certain times, and with these prices of these homes at where they're at, there are people now who are finding out that their new assessment, their taxes are now like $10,000 a year, which is driving their mortgage rates up. In some places, $500, $1,000, $1,500, no different than when 2008 came around and people, were doing the interest only loans. They were talking people into taking those adjustable rate mortgages and, giving them, 3 years, 5 years, you're just going to pay this certain amount. But on year number 4, year number 5, your interest is going to kick in, and people started seeing their mortgages double. It's a new game that they're playing. And I thought about that when they did that, when it happened back in 2008 and the housing market started coming back around. I was like, okay, what they're trying to make the housing market bounce back. I'm sure they got a new game plan in play that they're, going to use to screw the people over. And that's exactly what you're seeing happening, is that you think the government is wanting to go backwards after seeing how much money they're bringing in off of these people's homes. So basically what they want is they want the government to get rich, continue getting rich off of the backs of the people. And how are they doing it? Through the taxes of your house. That's what they're doing. And there's incentive for him to say, I want to drive the price of houses up, because the more your house goes up, the next time you get that new assessment, guess what happens? Your taxes, they're going to go up and continue to go up. That's why they don't want the prices to go down. And you heard what he said too. We want the people that are working hard, the hardworking people, to be able to buy the homes, not make it easy for the non-hardworking. So basically, you're telling me the people that are working, just regular jobs are not hardworking people? They don't. They basically what he's saying is that we don't deserve to be able to buy a home. We don't work hard enough for your average everyday, so-called black or Hispanic. That's basically what he's saying, but people are not paying attention to it. All right. But what's happening is out of covetousness, people are throwing caution to the wind because we use the word that's another one of their key words, the American dream. The American dream. The American dream. Just like Reagan kept pushing capitalism, 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 capitalism. In a lot of his speeches, especially when it came to these economic forums, Trump is doing the same thing that he was hired to do with the housing market. It's not by accident, it's by design. Keep the prices of these houses up. The number one, the so-called blacks and Hispanics can never afford to buy them. Okay. Keep us out of their neighborhoods. And the only people that are going to really be able to afford these high-priced homes are his people, their people. But even so, they're still taking advantage of their own people. So what do you think? Well, you're seeing it happen already. You're already starting to see the amount of foreclosures go up again, just like it started in 2008. It started subtly, maybe around 2006, 2007, where you subtly started seeing the increase in foreclosures. You're seeing the same thing happening right now, 2026, starting to see foreclosures. And why is it happening? Because people are suddenly getting these new assessments on their homes and finding out that their mortgage payments have jumped by $500, $1,000, $1,500, and in some cases even doubled. And they're like, we can't afford this. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And what they're banking on is that, people are in a position like they don't want to lose their homes. They don't want that embarrassment. What does that come down to? That covetousness again. You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want your family and friends to know that now all of a sudden you're going to be losing your house. Some people it'll be for a second time. Some will probably be like a third time that it's happened. But, I just wanted to point that out. Let me play that one more time.
To protect the people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like they've, that they're wealthy people.
You hear it, right? They want you to feel like you're wealthy when in actuality you're not. They've got you stuck. Think about that. A mortgage, even on a $450,000 home right now, your mortgage payment is going to be at least between $3,500 a month to about $4,000 a month. That's insane. That is insane. So think of these homes that are 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. Some of them in the Sacramento area, even you go to Elk Grove, you go to Folsom. Actually, in Folsom, I've seen that a lot of their newer homes that they're building are already at $1 million. Can you imagine the tax assessment on these homes? It's crazy. It is insane. But how are they getting away with it? Because let's go back to it. People are giving into their emotions and they got to have the American dream, ignoring what the Bible says, go not after thy lusts, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. People get caught up, and next thing they know, they let their emotions get the best of them. That realtor's like, oh, just go ahead and do it. They got the mortgage company. Hey, just go ahead and do it. Just come to closing. We'll even, give you incentive. We'll pay down this. We'll pay, pay for points. It's a scam. It's a game. And the next thing you actually, in fact, oh my gosh, where was that at? There was a video on YouTube just the other day. The lady, she's a realtor, and she puts videos out. She's assisted too. And she was upset. She works for she's actually a mortgage broker. And she was mad because she was like, can you believe that I got a call because a family that they had got, they bent over backwards to get them into this home. And they got the phone call that they've been in the house for like 4 months now, and they haven't made not one mortgage payment. Not one mortgage payment. They sold them the home. They got into the home to find that all of a sudden they can't afford the house. They can't afford to make the mortgage payments. So now after 3-4 months of living in the house, they've got to take the house back. It's crazy. It is insane what's going on, and people are not paying attention to it. Go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If thou givest thy soul the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee. And that's exactly what they bank on, that you're going to be so afraid of that backlash, that, being that laughing stock to family and friends. Like, oh, they went and bought that house, and oh, they can't even really afford it. They lost their house. Oh, that's what the Bible's warning us about. But people don't care. They're not paying attention. All right. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and read verse 9.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 6 and verse 9. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit.
Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. All right. Because that's what ends up happening. People, have these desires. Their minds start wandering. They start thinking, all they're thinking about, all the day long is what they desire, what they want, what, you know what I mean? And they eventually end up giving into it. All right. It says this is also vanity and vexation of spirit. All right. Let's go to Galatians 5 and 19 through 21.
The book of Galatians, chapter 5 and verse 19. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness,
Lasciviousness.
lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
All right. So we've got to come to understand, especially when it comes to being covetous, that this is a part of the works of the flesh. All right. As you see right here, envyings, idolatry, envyings, where is it at? Emulations, emulating somebody, kind of like imitating them, wanting to be like, trying to be like them in a way. All of this all comes back to, what do you call it? Covetousness, being covetous. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I've told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So if you have these spirits on you, you're not getting the kingdom, period. Period. That's just plain and simple. And unfortunately, in America, like I said, you go back and look, and everything America, what is pushed? It's capitalism. Capitalism is the basis of all of it. And you can see that there is a plan set up, and the plan is for the people to lose. They say this is a free market system. Now, what we just heard in that situation, does that sound like a free market system where you have the home prices being either brought up or brought down because of competition between home builders? Because that's not what's happening. That's what a free market system would be. You have KB Homes, you've got Lennar Homes, you've got what are some of the other ones? LB Homes, all these different something Tim Lewis Homes, all these different builders that are all around the country. If it was a real free market, it would be okay, let's be in competition, see who could build the best home at the best price for people, that's affordable for people. Because the person that builds the best house at the best economical price, guess who's going to win that competition? That's free market. Let's say KB Homes is building a better home than Lennar Homes. KB Homes, you go in there, you buy your house, everything's in order. You don't have no mistakes. You got no building problems, no problems in construction, none of that stuff. You got a quality home, a nice home, and at a real affordable price. But if you pay attention to what's going on with some of these other builders, especially little ones like Lennar, what do you keep hearing about? You keep hearing about the quality of the homes are way down. People buying these houses and going in and finding that, the jobs that were done on building these homes looks like they just quickly threw them together. Sloppy paint jobs, sloppy, what do you call it? Just nails, sticking out. The quality of the builds is horrible, but they don't care because the people are buying the homes, and once they've signed the contract and got in the home, they're just washing their hands of it. Like, okay, hey, you already bought the house. People are getting into their homes and getting up on their roofs because they're finding out that, they got a tile roof, and finding out that some of the tiles in the roof are broken. Brand new homes, and they're not letting the inspectors go up on the roofs in order to inspect the roofs. You know what I mean? When the Bible says that in buying and selling there's sin, look at what's going on in America today, especially in the housing market, and you will see that there's a lot of sin involved. There's a lot of wickedness. And if you're smart, stay away from it. Stay away from it, because again, it's starting to happen, and you're gonna see it. A lot of people are about to start losing their homes again. The only reason why it hasn't gotten that bad yet is because the job market is still somewhat strong right now. But when that goes down, we start seeing, because, well, you are starting to see some mass layoffs. You're starting to see it. It's happening subtly, not as bad as it was back in 2008, where, the job market just completely crashed along with the housing market. But it's going to happen again. It's going to. Go back and look at the history of the housing market and what they do. They did it in the 80s. Same thing. Go back and read about the housing market crash of the 80s. They did it in the early 2000s. And here it is 20 years later again. They're ready to do it again. It's almost like every 20 years, they set the housing market up for the same thing, this big crash. And remember who's benefiting from it? These banks, the bankers. They get to sell a house, get that down payment, have you make payments on it for a while, and then they get to kick you out and then bring somebody else in and start all over again. You know, the pattern just keeps repeating. Bring somebody in, get that big down payment, let them pay on it for a while, and then let them go. And then also, too, think about this. Let's say you're even 30 years old. You're 30 years old. You go and buy a $600,000 house, $600,000 home. Okay. Even if you get a FHA three and a, what is it, 3.5%, 3%, 3.5% down payment, whatever it may be that they do for FHA, you put your down payment. Your mortgage payment is somewhere about $4,500 a month, somewhere around there, and you just have one thing go wrong, one little thing, sickness, a long-term health crisis where you're out of work for a while. You get laid off, you lose your job. You're not able to make your payment for a few months. That's a quick $12,000 debt that you're going to have yourself in. That's quick, boom. Month one, $4,000. Month two, $8,000. Month three, $12,000. And not only that, let's further talk about what kind of sense does it make? If you go to, we've talked about this before, you go to a car lot and you buy a car and they told you that, well, the first 3 years on the loan, let's say it's a 6-year loan term. Well, the first 3 years on the loan, you're only going to be paying the interest. You won't start paying on the actual car until year number 4. Who would buy that car? Would you buy that car? No, nobody's going to. Most people are at least a little bit savvy enough to go to a car lot and be like, no, I'm not taking that deal. But that's what's going on when you buy a house. You go buy that $600,000 home. And in the first 10 years, 5 to 10 years of you owning that home, which you don't really own, you're paying only on the interest. You're only paying on the interest. So after 10 years of you owning that home, and that's where I was getting at, let's say you're 30 years old. 10 years later, you're now 40 years old. You still owe $600,000 in the house. Do you see the scam? It's a scam. And people have got to open their eyes. Now, if you just, you're in a position, you got buco money, you're making bank, and you could, okay, you know what, this is the game they're playing, I'll just play it, not going to hurt me financially, then do it. But for the average person, that's a big gamble. $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Let's say you're 40 years old and you bought the house. Let's say you're 50 years old. You're making a commitment that you're going to take 30 years of your life that you're going to pay this $600,000 debt off. You're never going to pay it. It's never going to get paid off. And that's what they want. You're never going to pay that house off. Especially if you're 40, 50 years old and you're buying a $600,000 home, $700,000 home. The likelihood of you passing away by the time you're 70 is real high nowadays. So, like I said, just people need to keep that in mind and not give in to the lust of their flesh, man. That covetousness. Let's go to 1 John 2:15.
The book of The book of First John, chapter 2, and verse 15. Verse 15. And it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of the life is not of the Father, but is of the world.
All right. So love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. Because that's, again, this is what America has pushed on all Americans, but on our people, the Israelites, the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because we've been indoctrinated. We've been assimilated into their culture. And of course, our people are seeing Esau have all these nice things, and we want to have it too. But we got to remember, just as the Bible told us that if we were on top, we would be the ones controlling things, right? We would be the ones controlling usury, or what is interest. But right now, we're at the bottom. We've got to sit back and listen to a Trump talk about how he wants to raise the price of the homes and drop the interest rate. But for our people, you think they're really going to drop the interest rate to 2, 3, 4%? It's not going to happen. Think about that. They did that during the pandemic. They dropped the interest. What did it drop down to? Was it like 1 or 2% or something like that during the pandemic? The interest rates just dropped, and they caused a bidding frenzy on these homes. But who are the people out there bidding? See, the majority of our people, regular working class people, were too busy trying to apply for what do you call it? Assistance. Trying to get what do you call it? Oh my gosh, the word just popped out of my head. Yeah, unemployment. There we go. The majority of our people were trying to figure out how to apply and get unemployment during the pandemic. Didn't have any money to run out and buy a home. But look at how many people remember during the pandemic when they were all of a sudden, it was people out bidding and bidding and bidding and fighting. It was like a bidding war on homes because they had dropped the interest rate so low. You got to ask you, how did Esau, because they were the ones out there running around buying homes during the pandemic when everybody was supposedly at home not working? That's where we got to understand that this economic system is set up to benefit them, not us. And they're further showing it to us. But at the same time, throwing it in our faces and making us desire to want to have what they've got, while at the same time making us work harder in order to achieve it, making us work harder to have it. But listen to the words that Trump himself just said in that speech he was giving, or that economic forum talk he was having. He wants to drive prices up, bring interest rates down. So by driving the price, he said, I'm not lowering the prices just for non-hardworking people to be able to afford these homes. Those non-hardworking people, he might as well just say it. He don't want blacks and Hispanic people being able to afford these homes. He's telling you what he's thinking. That's basically what he's saying. It's a game they've been playing against our people from day one. When you go back to Jim Crow, go back and look at redlining, all of that's been going on. It hasn't stopped. Just because more of our people are in, or were in the position to buy homes not long ago. Some of them have been able to hold on to them. Home ownership amongst our people is somewhat up. But look at the totality. The majority of our people cannot afford to go out and buy these homes, and it's by design. But they still want our people to covet. They still want us to to desire to have the things that they have. And again, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, it is of the world. We have to learn how to control our lusts. We have to learn how to control our desires. All right, especially as God's people, especially here in America in this captivity, because this stuff is not meant for us to prosper. It's not. All right, let's go to Psalms 10. Psalms 10, you're going to read verses 2 through 8.
The book of Psalms, chapter 10 and verse 2. The wicked in his pride does persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorred. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always always grievous. Thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them.
He puffeth at them. Look at Trump. That's basically what he's doing when he's sitting there talking about the housing market. He's puffing at his enemies, meaning us. Go ahead.
He has said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversary. His
In
mouth,
adversity. For I shall never be in adversity. That's Trump sitting there, throwing it in the face of our people, and our people minds are so caught up on other stuff that they're not even paying attention to the fact that he's straight out telling you he's not getting ready to make these homes affordable for you. He's not about to do it. Him and his people are not going to be in adversity. He's not going to be moved. He's not going to feel sorry for you. He's not going to, bend over backwards for you to help you. He's not going to do it. Go ahead.
his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity.
Again, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Is this not describing Trump to a T, everything in this? His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Go ahead.
He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the places, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor.
And you got to remember, you don't have to physically murder somebody in order to be a murderer. That hatred that he has towards our people, the so-called blacks and Hispanics, that hatred alone makes him a murderer, makes him a murderer against the innocent of our people. All right. His eyes are privily set against the poor. And he just said it in that economic form. He don't care about the poor being able to afford homes. He does not care. He at the beginning, he flat out said it. This is what I did. This is what I made good with this. Dealing with the homes, the housing market, dealing in real estate. I was good. And go back and look at the history of Trump and how he treated people in his dealing, especially our people. All right. So don't let them sit there and fool you, is what I'm trying to say. All right, let's go to 2 Timothy 3:1-7. Because we got to again look, how did the world get into this state? Look at the state that the world is in. How did we get there? All because of covetous. Look at how people act nowadays.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 1. This is a true saying. If a man desires the office of a bishop, he
Where
desires.
you at? Where
Oh
you
no,
at?
it went to 1 Timothy. I was on 2 Timothy. Give me a second. Ooh, went too far. Here we go. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. There's know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and leave captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. This is your average everyday Christian. Because the majority, again, of these people out here claiming to be Christians, these are your so-called Republican and Democrats, your liberals. You know what I mean? They're out here claiming to be Christians, Christ-like, but this is how they're actually really living their lives. Everything that was just named here. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. All right. As it says in verse 5, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. We've got to turn away from dealing with these people. We've got to. All right. So, again, people like Trump and some of these real estate investors, it all comes back down to covetousness. Actually, we can go to the Old Testament and read about a situation like that. Actually, all right, let's go to First Kings real quick. First Kings 16:31. See, people are probably wondering, like, why is that so much about Trump and housing market and what does that got to do with covetousness? We're going to show you right here, because things haven't changed. Going all the way back into the Bible to see that, when it comes to land and purchasing of land and everything, there's always sin involved. There's always covetousness. There's always envy, jealousy, and it's been that way. It's nothing new. Go ahead.
The book of
16.
The book of First Kings, chapter 16 and verse 31. And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord, above all that were before him. Oh no, you said 31, right? I read 30.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him.
All right. So first off, well, I'm glad you did read because it's talking about Ahab, because this is who this is talking about. We're going to read a story about what happened with Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Now, this goes to show you that the majority of our people don't pay attention and don't read the Bible, because let's say you mention, to a woman or women, like, you know what, you guys need to get that Jezebel spirit off of you. They immediately go into Christianity way of thinking of the Jezebel spirit. He's called, basically, they think you're calling them a HOE, because that's what has been pushed into the minds of our people. They don't read the Bible, that if you get called a Jezebel, that means you're just some loose, whorish type woman that's out there running loose and jumping on all kind of men. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Jezebel spirit. We're going to show you exactly what the Jezebel spirit is talking about. All right. And there's more to it. We're just going to touch up on a little bit, but you got to go and truly read about Jezebel to fully understand what she was about and who she was and how she acted and what she did. All right. In order, we're talking about that Jezebel spirit on some of the women of Israel. All right. Let's go to First Kings. This is what mainly we're talking about when we bring up the Jezebel spirit. For those of you that haven't read the Bible and allow yourselves to get offended when somebody says you need to get that Jezebel spirit off of you, because a lot of women get offended by that, not knowing what it actually is talking about. So let's go to 1 Kings 21. You're going to read verses 1 through 16.
The book of First Kings, chapter 21. Chapter 21 and verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth, the Naboth, the Jezreelite, had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the place of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said,
so what's happening? Hold on. So what's happening here is this guy Naboth, he had a vineyard, and Ahab, he lusted after that vineyard. He desired to have that vineyard, or he coveted to have his vineyard. He wanted to have it. Okay. So let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and read on.
And Naboth said to Ahab, The Lord forbid it me that I should give thee the inheritance of my fathers unto thee.
So what's happened is Naboth inherited that land from his fathers. It was passed down through his family. So it's more than just a piece of land. It's very sentimental, has very sentimental value to him. Okay. But does Ahab care? Let's read on.
And Ahab came in, verse 4, and Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my father. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread.
So basically, he's acting like a child. He's acting like that child that may have asked one of his friends, his friend got a toy or something, and he asked his friend, like, hey, can I have it? And his friend said, no, no, my mom gave me that. And so now the little kid is like, and goes home upset, lays down in the bed, weeping and crying, lips poking out. And the mother's like, what's wrong? Well, friend so got this toy and he won't share it with me. But this is how this grown man is acting like a child, because Naboth will not give him or sell his land to him. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Go ahead and read on.
But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread?
And she's
And,
doing what a good wife would do. A good wife would see your countenance change, see that there's something bothering you, be like, hey, baby, what's wrong with you? You all right? Well, why you seem sad? Like, what's going on? Why you're not eating? You sick or something? What's going on? You all right? So of course she's showing some concern for her husband, like any good wife should do, right? So when she hears the reason why he's acting like that, a good wife would be like, what are you acting crazy about this man's vineyard for? You go buy any vineyard you want. What do you need his for? Leave that man alone and let's just look somewhere else. You know what I mean? That's what a good wife should have been telling him. Like, in fact, I'm going to make you your favorite dinner. Forget about that land. Let me make you your favorite dinner. We're going to go out and have some fun, hang out tonight. Let's just have a good evening together and forget about all that. But no, let's see what she does. Go ahead.
and he said unto her, because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard.
So at that point, the good wife should have been like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? You coming in the house moping and laying down, acting like a little kid because he won't give you his vineyard? Are you serious? Go ahead.
And Jezebel, his wife, said unto him, dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite.
So here she is. This is that spirit of Jezebel that people talk about. So instead of her doing the former, she's going to instead take it upon herself. Like, you know what? I'll get it for you. Don't worry, baby. I don't want to see you crying. I don't want to see you sitting here looking sad. So, baby, I'll get it. Your wife will get it for you. So let's see what she does to get him Naboth's land. Go ahead.
So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city, dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And set two men, sons of Baal, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him, that he may die.
You see what this wicked woman did? Number one, she intermeddled into the affairs of two men, which shouldn't have happened. Okay. Wrote a letter in the name of her husband, which she shouldn't have done, and set this man up to get unalived. Set him up to get unalived just so her husband could get that land. When we talk about the Jezebel spirit, that's what we're talking about. That spirit on a woman that makes her feel like she can usurp the authority of the man. That's the Jezebel spirit we're mainly talking about when we mention the Jezebel spirit. Because you got to even remember that even in Paul's letters, he said that the woman is not supposed to usurp the authority of the man. And it wasn't just in the New Testament, that goes all the way back to the Old Testament. A man's wife is not supposed to usurp the authority of her husband. And that is exactly what you see going on right here. She took it upon herself to intermeddle in the affairs of these two men about this land. It's off. She's not supposed to be doing that. Shouldn't have never done that. All right. Let alone set this man up that he would get unalived just so her husband could get the land. Let's go ahead and read on.
And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles, who were the inhabitants in his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them.
Because she knew that if she had wrote her name and they knew that the letters were from her, these men would have read the letter and been like, what is wrong with this Jezebel lady? What is she thinking? They would have been coming to her husband like, hey, why is your wife writing us this letter trying to tell us to take Naboth out and unalive him for what? Why aren't you coming talking to us? Why is your wife, coming and intermeddling with this? Well, like, what's going on? But she wrote her husband's name on the letters to make them believe that it came from him, that it was an order from her husband. And these men, believing that it was from her husband, went and did exactly what she said. They went and killed this man. Unalived him. Let's go ahead and continue reading. Go ahead.
They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in two men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died.
So she lied on this man. She had them set up two witnesses, because remember in the scripture, you got to have two or more witnesses. So they set up two witnesses against him to come up and lie and say that he blasphemed against God and the king, which was cause for them to take him out and stone him and unalive him. All for why? Let's go ahead and read on. Go ahead.
Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give to thee for money. For Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard, and Naboth the Jezreelite took to possession of it.
So it says that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. So after his wife went and did that, he was just so happy, jumped up, excited, and went and took possession of this man's land after his wife set this man up to be unalived. So when we're talking about that Jezebel spirit, number one, we're talking about that spirit on women, that number one, they will usurp the authority of the man and stick their nose into the affairs of men that they shouldn't be sticking their nose into. And number two, that wickedness that the Bible speaks of, there is nothing more wicked than the wickedness of what? A wicked woman. So she set this man up to have him unalive. That's why even today you see the same thing happening. You still see women today that will set a man up to have him unalive. You see videos on YouTube all the time of this. Setting a man up to try to get him unalive or to get him robbed. That Jezebel spirit is what we're talking about. That you need to be careful when it comes to you dealing with certain types of women. Because some of these women out there that got that Jezebel spirit on them will get you hurt. They will get you hurt, and it's all out of their own what? Covetousness. Okay? Because I'm sure she just didn't want that vineyard just for her husband. She probably wanted it for herself and him, both. But she wanted something out of it too. All right. So, but that's an example of a person allowing the lust of their eyes, the lust of their flesh to take hold of them and give into their lusts and end up breaking God's commandments, all for what? Just so they could take possession of somebody else's land. Thou shalt not kill. So you're going to take advantage and you're going to break the commandment. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. You're going to take advantage and break God's commandment of thou shalt not steal just so you can get that land. Thou shalt not covet. You're going to break God's commandment of thou shalt not covet just so you can get that land. Going back again to see how when you break one commandment, you essentially end up breaking several commandments in the commission of it's like, again, when somebody in the commission of a crime commits crime after crime after crime in the commission of that one crime. Like I mentioned earlier about some of these kids going out committing these robberies. All right. Let's say you're leaving the grocery store. Some kid comes running up and he's got a gun. He's got a pew-pew, pulls it on you, takes your wallet, or actually takes the lady's purse, takes her purse with her wallet in the purse, takes her keys, jumps in her car and takes her car. The wallet is full of cash, credit cards. So this kid takes all of that, drives off, goes to the ATM machine and starts unloading her debit cards. Okay. Goes home, gets on the computer and starts ordering all kinds of stuff on her credit cards. Okay. And then gets caught. They finally catch up to him. You've got possession of a deadly weapon, along with the possession of that deadly weapon, pointing the weapon at the woman and robbing her. That's using force or fear in the commission of that robbery. So now that's a different felony. That's a whole nother crime added on top of that. Okay. So now with the taking of the credit cards, especially getting on the computer and using the lady's credit card, I'm sure that could constitute identity theft. Using the credit cards of somebody else on the computer to order yourself products, okay, because you're using this person's name and identity in order to pay for it. Okay, so you can see how this adds up. These crimes start to stack up. Not only that, then you've got carjacking because you took her car. Add that to it. Okay, so you can see how when the police start going through, they start tacking on all of these different crimes. You see it too, like when people car chases, when people flee from the police. You got 10 counts of running a red light, 15 counts, maybe they ran into 5 different cars, 15 different cars while they're driving. Okay. maybe it's 5 cars, hit the car and took off. 5 counts of hit and run. You know what I mean? They get caught with a gun in the car. Maybe they're a felon. Now you're a felon in possession of a firearm. You know, these crimes, they just keep stacking up the charges. And it's no different than with the Lord. You break one commandment, those charges are stacking up because you're breaking other commandments in the commission of breaking that one. All right, Lord's will, that makes sense to you. So now let's go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and you're going to read verses 1 through 3.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 1. Yeah, verse 1. And you had a quickeneth who were dead in trespassing and sins, wherein in time past you walk according to the course of this world, according to the price of the power of the air.
According to the prince of the power of the air.
Makes more sense. Verse 2, wherein in time past you walk according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation in time past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others.
All right, so we've got to be careful when it comes to that spirit of covetousness, that we don't find ourselves in this position. As he says, and you hath he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins. Quickened means made alive, because at one point we all were dead in trespasses and sins. We were all caught up in sin, breaking God's commandments. It says, where in time past you walked according to the course of this world. We all in time past walked according to the course of this world before coming into this truth. I was a sinner. He was a sinner. We were caught up in breaking God's commandments. It says, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. Because the people that are walking according to disobedience, they're walking according to Satan. Okay? It says, among whom also we all had our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. And we all have been there at one point in time where we were given into the desires of our flesh. We were given into the desires of our mind, being covetous, being children of disobedience. All right. So keep that in mind, that we've got to get ourselves up out of that mind state. Okay. Let's go to Romans 8 and 3 through 8.
The book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse 3. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteous of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God.
So then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. So if you're walking after the flesh, the Bible's telling you plainly, you cannot please God. All right. God is not pleased with you. Let's go to Galatians 5 and 16 through 21.
The book of Galatians, chapter 5 and verse 16. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusted against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the spirit, ye are not under the law. Now, the works of the flesh are manifested, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envying, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
All right. So as he says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So we have to walk after the spirit. In other words, we've got to walk in God's commandments, especially when it comes to thou shalt not covet, because that leads to a multitude of sins. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife, thy neighbor's ox. And instead of like an ox or an ass, today's modern times, that would be his car, his business, his job. You know what I mean? The way they dress, the clothes they have, shoes they have, because that's what it comes down to. Nowadays people covet the craziest stuff. A watch somebody has, a chain they've got on, a ring they're wearing. You know what I mean? The car that they've got, a bike. You see people just riding down the street on a bike and people running up, knocking them off the bike and stealing their bike, or pulling a gun out and taking their bikes. It's crazy. The state of the world right now. People getting followed home um, from work, people getting followed home from the mall, from, wherever. And next thing they know, they're getting out their car and you got, kids running up with guns drawn, robbing you. So you've got to keep an eye out. And again, that's that thing that Christ warned us about, be careful where you put your treasures, what your mind is on. All right. Let me think, is that Matthew 12? Let me look for it. Matthew 6 and 19. Go there real quick.
The book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 19. After this manner, therefore, pray ye.
Matthew 6 and 19.
6 and 19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal.
So Christ told us, lay not up for yourself treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. Because, you get a chain, or want to, desire to have a chain somebody may have, or a car. At some point, that car is going to get old. That car is going to rust. You know what I mean? Or you want to buy, you have a desire to own these things, to own a car, own jewelry, and a lot of other different types of things. And at some point, those things are going to get old. They're going to get rusted. They're going to fall apart, especially a car. And then he's warning us, why lay up all these treasures on earth? Why lay up all these and collect all these material possessions, where all it's going to do is just make people want to break into your house and steal it? That's the warning he's giving. Go ahead and read verse 20.
Verse 20. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal.
Where thieves do not break through and steal. All right. So let's go to the book of Sirach. You're going to read Sirach 23 and 6.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 23 and verse 6. Let not the greediness of the belly nor lust of the flesh take hold of me, and give not over me thy servant into an impudent mind.
Let not the greediness of the belly is your mind. All right. So let not the greediness of your mind, the belly, nor lust of the flesh take hold of me, and give not over me thy servant into an impudent mind. We got to keep that in. We got to keep meditating on this. Okay. Get that covetous spirit out of us. Let's go to James 4 and 1 through 8.
The book of James, chapter 4 and verse 1. From whence come wars and fighting among you? Come they not hence, even of your lust, the war in your members? Ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not. Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lust. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Do ye think that the scripture saith in vain, the spirit that dwelleth in us lusted to envy? But he giveth more grace, wherefore he saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded.
All right. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Let's go to Luke 12 and 13 through 21.
The book of Luke, chapter 12, and you said 41?
12 and 13 through 21.
Verse 13. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother, that he divide the inheritance with me. And he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisted not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits? And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barn and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease and drink and be merry. But God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God.
So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Begin to read verses 8 through 16.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5 and verse 8. And it says, If thou setst the oppression of the poor,
When thou seest,
if thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent pervertings of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. This is also vanity. When goods increase, they are increased, they eat them, and what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholdings of them which with their eyes. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. But those riches perish by evil travails, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor which he may carry away in his hands. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit had he that had labor for the wind?
For the wind. All right. Let's go to Mark 8:36.
Book of Mark, chapter 8 and verse 36. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?
For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? It's not going to do you much. All right. Let's go to Proverbs 15:27.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 27. He that is greedy of gain troubleth his own house, but he that hated gifts shall live.
He that is greedy of gain troubleth his own house. You got to be careful of that, because you may have a husband, a father that has, some kind of, especially nowadays here in California, you've got all these casinos springing up and popping up, so-called Indian gaming casinos that are owned by Edomites that they claim are owned by Native Americans. But they're popping up everywhere. And you have people that are addicted to this gambling and going into these casinos. They're filled up, and it's mainly, the sad part about it is mainly elderly people they're taking advantage of in these places. These old people, I have not figured it out, but what is the obsession with old people in gambling? I don't get it. But you're gonna have some of these people, they're greedy for gain, and that's the way they're gonna trouble their house. They're gonna get themselves in debt because they're out there gambling, or they just may take unnecessary risks with their money, or just a very covetous person that they just spend money on frivolous things that they don't need, and put themselves in bad positions to where they can't pay their normal regular bills. All right, so you got to be careful of that, especially in marriage. You know what I mean? A woman marrying a man, make sure that they don't have that kind of spirit on them. All right, let's go to 1 Corinthians 5:6-11.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 5 and verse 6. It says, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. I wrote unto you in a epistle not to company with fornications, yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then must ye need go out of the world. But now I have written unto you not to keep company if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such as one know not to eat.
All right. Let's go to Ephesians 5 and 1 through 7.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5, and verse 1. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, and Christ also had loved us, and had given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling Savior.
All
But
right. Go ahead.
but fornication and uncleanness and covetousness, let it not be one's name among you as becomes saints, neither for filth nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. For this ye know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater had any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things come the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them.
Be not ye therefore partakers with them. So this is another we just read. It's like 1 Corinthians 5 and 6 through 11, basically telling us that people that have these spirits on them, especially that covetous man, you're not going to get the kingdom. All right. It has a whole list of things, of spirits that people have on them that is going to keep you from getting the kingdom. Let's go to Sirach 37 and 10 through 12.
Um, the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 37, and verse 10. Consult not with one that suspected thee, and hide thy counsel from such as envying thee. Neither consult with a woman touching her of whom she is jealous, neither with a coward in matters of war, nor with a merchant concerning exchange, nor with a buyer of selling, nor with an envious man of thankfulness, nor with an unmerciful man touching kindness, nor with the slothful for any work, nor with a hireling for a year of finishing work, nor with an idle servant of much busyness. Hearken not unto these in any matter of counsel, but be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
All right, so he's telling us, but be continually with a godly man, who thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So, in other words, we should be dealing with people that are like minded like us. Who should we be hanging around with? People that are like us, people in the Israelite community that understand the commandments of the Lord, understand that we're Israelites, that want to keep the commandments of the Lord, that want to keep the high holy days, want to keep the Sabbath days. All right. Because you're going to run into trouble if you're still trying to hang out with friends and family members of the world whose values are contrary to your own. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. All right. Um, we got to remember that. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 13 and 11.
The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11. Finally, brethren, farewell, be perfect, be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you.
And Ecclesiastes 12 and 13 through 14.
The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
And with that, we're going to say shalom. Enjoy the rest of the Sabbath day. Blessed Sabbath to you. And Lord willing, we will see you next Sabbath. Shalom.